Welcome everybody to Flameless Fireside for our Wednesday night edition. Today is September 8th, is it?
It is.
Am I getting that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. So we're here with, so it's Larissa. Pronounce your name for me, Larissa. Is it Larissa?
Yes.
I got that part right. DeGraaff?
DeGraaff, yeah.
What?
You.
First try.
Kind of a crazy
I should have asked
name.
that before we jumped on, but welcome. You are, this is not your first time around with us, and so welcome back. And just to remind everybody, we're going to ask you to go ahead and keep your video and microphones off for now. That there will be an opportunity toward the end of the podcast for you to join in the conversation and ask some questions of Larissa. And anyway, but this first part, you know, we just like to get to know our guest a little bit. We've met her before, so maybe we won't take quite as long as we normally do. And part of that is because the topic we're talking about tonight is really extra important, which is safety in dating. And Larissa knows a thing or two about that, and that's why we invited her on today, and we're glad to have her with us. So Larissa, tell us a little bit about yourself, just kind of the basics, and then maybe we'll kind of move in a direction that takes us more toward the topic for the day. But what would you tell us about yourself first? Somebody asked. Well, I'm asking, so.
Okay. Well, let's see. Born and raised in Utah native.
Yeah, we never heard that before.
I know. There's a lot of us.
Where in Utah were you raised?
Riverton.
Okay.
When we first moved out here, it was, way out there. Mm-hmm. And everybody was like, "You're moving way out there."
But now it's become sort of,
and now it's boomed.
Now it's huge because it's just all one big area around there.
Yeah.
It's like a big Salt Lake just goes for days.
It's massive, I know. And the traffic is insane. But
so the edge of town has become the middle of town now, or
yeah. I like it.
It feels like city.
Yeah, I like it because it's nice. It's like halfway between Salt Lake and Utah counties, and it's just it's a perfect location.
Yeah.
Okay. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I lived in Highland for a while, and so that kind of had that feel to it. You can go either direction. So what was life like there in Riverton?
Just, regular old life. I'm the oldest of 6 kids. So, and we're all kind of close in age. We're about 9 years apart. So it's kind of this little stack. And and
your mom was busy.
She was busy. She, went crazy there for a little while.
I bet she did.
But it's super fun now that we're adults. We're all very, very close. We rely on each other and help each other.
Oh, that's great.
I'm pretty lucky. I've got some amazing siblings and spouses of siblings, and so anyway.
That's awesome.
Great.
Yeah.
So where has life taken you since those early days in Riverton? Where have you been?
Well, I did live in, I went to UVU for a little while. So I lived in Happy Valley for a little bit, and moved to, I lived in Iowa for 3 years. And then I lived in Southern California for a few years, and then moved back. So for a little bit and then came back. And
I'm sure you had many adventures in those places.
Yes.
So
yes, it was interesting. It was when, it was during the time I was a young mom and having babies and moving all the time.
That can be tough because you have to restart. Like if you move, you have to have a new family. I mean, like a new ward family.
Yep.
Neighbors.
Make new friends.
For your kids, new school for your kids. That's tough. I've been there.
Yeah. And it was, I mean, I'm not military, so I can't, the military people are probably saying, whatever, you wimp. But, there was a lot of moving. We were a year in Burbank and a year in San Diego, and that year it just goes by pretty fast. And
yeah,
a lot of time to too many roots. You can kind of a little bit, but I don't know. It was interesting, but it was good. And I met friends, all the places I lived. I'm still friends with them. And thanks to Facebook, we can, keep in contact that way.
Great.
So yeah, had 3 kids and raised them all to adulthood. So I consider that a success. They're alive.
That they stayed alive.
They're alive. They're functioning.
Hey, that's
have
a success
jobs.
for a mother. Oh, if they've got jobs, that's like a double success.
Good
Wow.
job.
What in the
Yeah, I know.
world?
They're working. I know. No, I've got really good kids. They're
That's when you deserve the big purple bow, like the what is it, the pick of the show or whatever that one is. Anyway.
So anyway, yeah. So I've got a girl that's 25. Let's see, they all had birthdays. Is that right? She's 25, and then a boy that's 22, and a son that is 19.
Wow.
Great.
The boys are in college, and my daughter is a vet tech.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Fun.
So yeah, they're
She
pretty.
loves
It's fun
animals?
to have kids. She loves animals. Oh,
That's awesome.
Did you guys have animals when they were growing up, or?
well, we didn't in the beginning because we lived in apartments. A lot of the time we were living in other states. My ex was in graduate school, and so there was a lot of, we're in an apartment, can't get an animal. And Dad was allergic to cats, but as soon as we got divorced, we got a divorced cat.
Oh,
So
Oh, yeah.
she has a cat. She still has it.
Dog, so
Divorce cats are very
You
special cats, for those who don't know.
I
Yeah,
was
a
like,
divorced dog,
oh,
divorced
dog.
cat.
And he's
We
like,
did have a cat.
I'm getting a
What?
dog. I was just saying that's what my ex said. He's like, oh, we're divorced, we're getting a dog. Yeah,
I
I'm
know.
Right.
Well, my ex he really decided all the things I probably never, he never asked, but I wouldn't have loved it. He got a snake
Oh,
Oh,
for
wow.
kids and a rat.
oh.
I can't remember what else, but I was like, oh, I'm so glad those are at your dad's house.
I actually had a pet rat
Rats.
as a kid.
Ugh. My
thing
daughter
was
loves
tasty.
it though. Loved it.
Our
So gross.
family is ridiculous. So we've had, I have one son alone that had at one point 45 creatures in his room. And so
No, so no.
and most of them were reptiles. So, but chinchillas, rats, just flying squirrels.
Oh,
Yeah, the whole, like a little menagerie. That was just his passion. So
Yeah.
he didn't play football or be on the debate team. He just wanted to raise animals. And to this day, he does biology, and he raises creatures and sells them. He sells geckos
Awesome.
Wow.
as a side hustle.
So with
Hey.
So can you imagine going into a room with 45
No.
little animals all
No.
around?
I wouldn't go into the room with 45.
Our rule with him was, if we don't smell them, you get to keep them. And
Yeah.
I'll be darned, he was meticulous. So
Awesome.
there
Good.
you go.
Okay, so Larissa, with 4 kids, I'm assuming, or 3 kids.
3
I'm
kids,
assuming
yeah.
you're married. Do you want to just quickly go over that real quick?
I'm sorry. What was the part?
I'm
Yes.
assuming you
The
were
marriages.
married and are
Yes.
currently not. So
Yes, I am currently not. Yes, married. I was married to the father of my kids for 16 years. Gosh, I have to think back here. We divorced in 2009 and separated in 2007.
okay.
Got it.
I've been at the single mom thing for quite a
I
while.
was gonna say that's a lot of years to be alone.
That's
So
a lot
Wow.
of years. Well, yeah. So, those were in the early days. I was nervous about the kids were young. I mean, my youngest was 5. That was pretty young for me. And I worried about how things were going to go because, it wasn't a smooth divorce and things weren't smooth with him, and co-parenting was difficult. So there was a lot of worry about, how they were going to grow up and also being latchkey kids, having to leave them
yeah.
alone and all that kind of stuff. But you know what? They really have.
Do we get
Do we get?
What was that, John?
did it freeze?
Yeah, you're
Or did
kind
I
of
freeze?
choppy. No,
Thank
you're
you for-
Okay.
choppy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's usually me. So
Well, I think it's
keep going, Larissa. Don't let me interrupt you.
Anyway, let's see. Yeah, so we just did a lot of years of lot of therapy.
Mm-hmm.
My daughter had her first panic attack when she was 8 years old.
Oh.
And so we had, so there was a lot of just a lot of dealing with that. So I just would tell everybody all my money goes to attorneys and therapists. That's where
What a
And-
blessing for your kids, though, that was an option, because there's some parents that might think that, I mean, not as much nowadays, but it still has sometimes a taboo feel to
Oh, yeah.
therapy, especially for your
100%,
kids, but I think it's wonderful. I think that it's wonderful that you opted for
Oh
that.
yeah, no, I think that's why we are where we're at. I think that's, I credit that. It's,
And the fact
Good
that
therapy
you're
is
a strong
important. So,
yeah. And what
mom.
did
John
you say,
likes
Celeste?
that. I said, and
Yeah,
the fact that you're a
you.
strong mom, because
Well,
that is
I don't know.
a big
I have my
factor.
moments. You know how we all do.
That's
We
what
have
your
our
therapy was.
moments. Yeah. So in fact, my daughter, she's so cute. She's like, this wasn't very long ago. She sent me a text and just said, "Thank you so much for supporting my mental health." I was like,
Oh,
yay. Okay. She sees
That's awesome.
value. So yeah.
I'm telling you, if their physical health is 100% and their mental's not, it doesn't matter.
And none
how
of it matters.
healthy they
Yeah.
are. Yep.
Usually
Yep.
the physical will suffer then too. So
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true, huh?
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm pretty excited. I'm pretty proud of them. It's fun to have adult kids and to hang out with them. I don't see them as often as I'd like, but I'll text
Uh-huh.
once in a while and be like,
Are they all over or?
I have a daughter in Taylorsville. The daughter is in Taylorsville. My son is in Orem because he's at UVU.
Okay,
And then my youngest is in St. George,
got it.
Oh, nice.
Dixie or whatever they're going to call it. I don't know.
They're changing the name?
They are changing the name,
Oh, okay. Well,
along with
Yeah, can't
cancel.
have Dixie.
No, can't have Dixie anymore.
Part of the
oh,
council.
really? Okay. Wow.
Yeah, I don't even
I'm
know
not in
the name.
Utah, so I don't know all the, the drama down there.
You missed it.
I know.
I tried to stay out of it. I'm like, just let me know where you graduate. I don't know what to call it.
Yeah,
But it's good.
St.
It's-
George State, I guess, something like that.
Yeah.
So at some point along the way, you took an interest in the topic for tonight, right? How did that come about? What took you in that direction?
Well, I, at one time in a previous life, justice major. And actually it was when I was pregnant with my first child that I was working full time and I was going to school, and my ex was going to school full time. And what was the other thing I was doing? I think I was doing the Scouts. I was in charge of Scouts or something. Just all
That's
so
enough right there. Whew.
yeah, I was like, you know what? I can't. And the other thing was being in learning the criminal stuff while I was pregnant. I did have a class where we had a speaker come and talk about like a girl had been molested by her father, and just holding, having this baby and thinking, this isn't a field I think I can do. I want to be a mom. I don't, that's just, I had to kind of cut it out. And so I that was one of my dropouts. I have like 4 dropout stories.
It's okay.
I did that, but I was working. So I'm like, yeah, it's okay. I'm not, anyway. So I've always had an interest in the criminal aspect of things. And I have always been pretty safety conscious. Like even in high school and stuff, I was the one that would got to worry about this. And my friends would be like, who thinks of that stuff? This girl. So just always kind of hypersensitive to the safety aspect of things. And I was the mom, like with my daughter and her friends, that we had a safety word. And one time my daughter had to use the safety word and I had to go and rescue them, her and her friends. And, just,
wow.
just things like that. And then when we got into, let's say Facebook was coming around about the time I was single. And
Oh
I know
my
what it is.
goodness.
Oh, somebody needs muted.
I got it.
Okay.
Anyway, so I had, in the beginning of being single, it was, so back in 2007 or 9, I guess is when I technically became single. 2009, and I joined Facebook, and I was looking for support. There wasn't a lot of support, just, you know, it's not like there was support in my ward. I mean, my family supported me and my friends supported me, but I didn't know single people. So Facebook introduced me to all the single people.
Hannah,
Okay, I don't know how
You
come
need a
she
shower?
keeps unmuting herself. I'm so sorry.
Sorry, I lose my train of thought so easily. I'm like, squirrel.
No, I apologize.
Okay. No,
Catching it, but not until after she
that's
speaks.
okay. Okay, so Facebook, single. So I started joining single groups and stuff, and single moms groups, and getting to know other moms, and doing a lot of single mom things like with our kids, you know, camp outs and hikes and things like that. And then the group that I was a part of didn't continue going. The girls kind of dropped it. And so I kind of started another group that was kind of for the same purpose. It was, we can do girls' night out, we can do stuff with kids. It was just girls. And it didn't ever get to the point where we had like an event or an activity. It didn't get to that point for a number of reasons. But one of the things that ended up happening with that group is that it kind of became a safety group. And I sort of would, you know, I'd post little articles and safety tips and stuff like that. So it just kind of went that way. And then out of the blue in 2000 and I can't remember, 11, maybe 2010, 2011, this, we had a rapist in the LDS mid-singles world here in Utah. And in this crazy roundabout way, it's a long story, so I won't even get into it, but God ended up having his hand in this and somehow guided me to the first victim. The first victim found me, and then a second victim found me, and then a third victim found, you know, and I started working with these victims for this. I mean, it just all kind of fell into my lap. It was really weird. There's lots of crazy experiences with it. But anyway, they were able to finally convict him, or not convict him, sorry, charge him. And so the path of that group just kind of went towards this safety, like, you know, I don't know, more educating and empowering women instead of necessarily, let's go play. But then I ended up getting remarried, and the group kind of just sat there, you know. So then it just kind of, occasionally I would still get an article or something and I'd post, or I had talked about this in the last podcast too. We had a catfish in the mid-season as well, and he was busy for a good 7 years. So there was a lot of stuff with that continued going, and I kind of kept that going. And anyway, then when I became single again, I kind of looked at the group to pick it back up, and there was another group that was a safety group. And I thought, oh, well, this is better. This works better. I like the way this works, you know. So I just kind of was a passenger in that group. And then they had a lot of drama. It's a hard group to run, so they kind of shut it down. And then somebody else came up and picked up another group and said, I'll do it. And so she took another group and started it. And then eventually I got somehow conned into being the admin there. And then
That's where you were supposed to be at the beginning.
Oh.
Yeah. I didn't want to start it though. I didn't want to commit to it. I didn't want to be like, yeah, I'll start a group and be responsible for it.
Right.
My group kind of, you know, that evolved in, I mean, this is a separate group from that, but that's why I'm involved in it.
Got it.
So,
Okay.
Yeah.
So obviously you're having all kinds of experiences with all the different groups and with those victims of the rapist. And what are some of the experiences that stand out to you from those early days when you were kind of like, as you settled into where you're at now with the group you run now, what are some things that stand out to you that kind of were like pivotal moments in saying, hey, this is something I need to dedicate my life to?
Yeah, that's, I don't know. I think, I don't know. That's a tough one. I do think for whatever reason, I was always in the right place at the right time. And there were times when I kind of say I was invisible. It's like, they don't see me, you know, like, and that's part of the reason why we were able to, I don't know. I can't even explain it. Anyway, with the rapist, he, what do I want to say about this? Sorry, you guys.
Whatever you're comfortable with. If you don't want.
Yeah, no, it's,
Yeah, if it's if you don't want to go, that's fine.
no, I think that was when it was, it's not that, it's like with anything, of course, in the mid-singles thing, you're going to have people who are on his side. And he ended up, before they let him out on, he was out on bail and he ended up committing suicide. Like 2
Aw.
So it never went to trial. We never had to go through any of that, which was a blessing for the victims. And I mean, it was a big,
Right.
oh, what, do you remember that? Were you aware of that, John?
You know what? I wasn't.
Okay.
At the time, I'm trying to even think so I was in Utah County at the time, but I was working with just a totally different population. And
Okay.
I think I was at LDS Family Services actually, but at least a lot of the time. So, but yeah, it just doesn't sound familiar to me, but.
Well, that's good. That's okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's good you don't know about that. But yeah, my sister, you know, everybody, all my friends, they were like, Larissa, you're just good at this. You need to, you know, this is kind of fallen into your lap for a reason. My friends will tell you that I'm a good little detective. So they'll be like, can you find information on this person? Let me see what I can do. And I can come up with something, or we find
Right.
last names of people that they won't give it to us, stuff like that. So I'm a little bit, and that probably has to do with, why I wanted to go into the whole criminal thing anyway. I just kind of
Right.
by nature.
Got it.
So it's just kind of a natural thing for me to be involved with safety. And I've gone trying to figure out what routes I want to take. Do I want to go into victim advocacy? I work in a law firm, so I was like, do I want to become a lawyer and go into criminal law, which doesn't pay anything? Do I want to, what do I want to do?
Right.
When I grow up?
When you grow up, that's me. That's where I'm at. When I grow up, what do I want to be?
Mhm.
I'm going to die and be like, what do I want to be when I
It
grow up?
almost sounds like you find your purpose best when you're not looking for it. It's almost like it lands in your lap. Have you noticed that pattern?
That's true. Yes, that is true. Because
I have a feeling when the time
everything.
comes for you to make that decision, something's just going to go ding.
Yes,
So
that's true. And so it's been a nice little hobby, I guess we can call it. So one of the victims called me, what did she call me? The mother hen of the ladies, kind of the protector and my connector. And so I don't know.
So
yeah, it reminded me of that scripture, as the hen gathereth her chicks, almost like you could kind of add that to the metaphor. It might add a little humor to it, but that idea that putting those wings around, protecting, that's beautiful. So go ahead, Celeste.
Cool.
I was just going to say, Larissa, just listening to your storyline, just when you were just telling that, I know you're like, okay, God's hand was in this, but there's no doubt in my mind that the Lord definitely put you in places he needed you. And
Yeah.
he has you in a place. I know you have your private group and you help and support many women that have had abuse or trauma. And I can't help but think that the Lord's like, you might not be getting paid for this, like in a monetary way. I
Mhm.
have no doubt that he's blessing you greatly for your service to those women. And
Yeah.
I think it's wonderful. I think it's wonderful.
you.
And I know that when the time comes, the Lord's going to show you what path to take. So that's awesome. So I
Thank
just
you.
appreciate you for doing that.
Yeah, it's it's been good. It's definitely in the passion list. So
That's awesome.
And if there are women in the audience that are interested, she's not going to give out the name of the group here because it is a private group and she likes to keep it protected, but they can contact you directly. How would they?
yeah, just send me like a Facebook message and we'll get you headed in the right.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So that's your journey in a nutshell. You
Yeah.
know, I'm sure there are a lot of twists and turns you could go into, but so I've been really curious, you know, to just kind of get some of the knowledge you've collected over the years. And so, you know, what are some things that you want to share with us tonight as far as what keeps us safe, especially in dating situations? And to be honest with you, I realize that it's probably, you know, more of a subject that benefits women, but at the same time, there are ways that men can be unsafe, if not physically, at least emotionally and in other ways.
Sure.
If we get into toxic situations. So anyway, tell us about that.
This might actually be a good time to just jump into my little PowerPoint.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Well, it's not short, but it's short, but there's content in there, and we, I can make the information available for other people.
Okay, what I'm going to do, if I can figure out how to do this, I'm going to go ahead and make you a co-host, and I think that should allow you to share the screen. So hopefully on the bottom, hopefully it shows your screen on the bottom now.
Can you see it?
Yes, we can. Awesome.
It worked. Yay. Okay.
Wow, look at that.
Okay, I'm not super techie, but I can do a little bit. So let's hope this works. All right. Maybe. Okay.
Hey.
Well, I grabbed some statistics from the Elizabeth Spark Foundation just to be quick because I didn't have a lot of time for research, but this kind of just gives you an idea of why we're talking about this and why this is an issue. I think we forget how rampant this really is. 1 in 3 females experience sexual violence in their lives. So if you know 3 females, for every 3 females, that's a lot of women.
And those are the ones that have been out and said something.
And those are the reported ones. Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly, which is frightening.
Yes.
Every 73 seconds, an American is sexually assaulted. So
holy.
That's quick. Yeah, that's scary. 80% of all assault survivors were assaulted in a residence. So that's one reason why we talk about meeting in a public place. Don't go to somebody's house and don't let them come to yours. 80%. That's a lot.
Yeah.
50% occur on dates. And ages 15 to 24 are, of course, highest risk. 6 out of 100 assaults are reported to police. So,
yep,
low number. 80% of assailants are friends and family of the victim. So, and we've heard that before. So, what that makes me think about is they're either counting date rapes as friends, or that number is that much higher when you include stranger rape or date rape. And anyway, 40% of teenage girls 14 to 17 know somebody their own age who has been hit or beaten by a boyfriend. So that makes us kind of think of our kids and our nieces and nephews. 1 in 10 children will be sexually abused before the age of 18. 50% of sexual assaults globally are committed against girls under age 16. And an estimated 1 million women are raped every year.
Wow.
3% will ever spend a single day in jail.
That's right.
Someone asked
So-
the question, do any of these stats include sexually assaulted men?
It doesn't
boys.
specify men or women, so I
Okay.
don't know. At one time, I remember hearing at least about the children. It was what, was it 3 and 5 and then 1 and 4 for men or something?
Uh-huh.
So
I think too, on the reporting of sexual assault, the reporting of men is pretty close to zero,
I was going to say,
I'm
these are all
sure.
numbers that are reported. I know,
especially
many
when they're
people-
assaulted by other men.
Right.
Right.
I know many people that have had situations and they've never said anything.
yeah,
And so
Right.
I know those numbers are so much higher for men and women.
exactly. Yeah,
But it's
I
low
think
for
you're spot
both,
on.
obviously. 6 out of 100 is just, wow, that's just sad.
I think that's about
It is sad.
accurate. Yeah.
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 And what's ironic about that is that kind of puts everybody else at risk more. The fact that we don't report it, just means that, they're not held accountable. And I wonder what the reoffense rate is,
Well, yeah, and that's part of the reason why we have our safety group, because we do have repeat offenders that have never been caught, probably never will be caught. Some have been reported, some are looking at, facing some charges, but it's really, really hard to prove rape.
I was just about to say, so this is where the men and women come into this topic, because it is a he said, she said thing, unless there's some sort of evidence
Proof,
there,
yeah.
right? And it can go both ways. I mean, it can be, I think it's less likely for women to blame men for doing something they didn't, but it does happen. And so I think it's important as a man, and I'm raising a son, that they learn, tricks and safety dating tips, because they need to keep themselves protected legally.
Yeah, we have a vested interest in protecting them too, and protecting women protects us.
Right.
Basically.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that it is cyclical. It's like if women are protected, then men are protected, and men need to realize that they can protect themselves too, and that it does happen. Women do accuse falsely, and that is a part of all of this as well. So
it's almost like it's in the best interest of both men and women to meet in public places, to get to know
Amen.
people first,
Yep.
It is.
not to trust too early in the
Yeah.
process. And that goes for emotional abuse too. I think very often it's the relationships we rush into that are the ones that tend to eat us alive emotionally too. So
Yep.
Yeah,
anyway,
excellent. Excellent points, guys.
thanks.
I know I'm the same. I have, my 19-year-old and 22-year-old, and I'm constantly, okay, let's talk about consent and
Yes.
let's talk about underage. And I mean, they're at that critical age where someone can, a girl can be like, I'm 18 and,
Yeah.
and then they're in trouble. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I've done a lot. I worry about them almost as much as I have my daughters. So.
I agree. I'm raising both, and I can see that they both need to protect themselves. So, yeah.
For sure.
So,
What do you got here?
Pardon?
Ooh,
What
this
do
is
you
the
got
good
here?
stuff.
You got some safety rules for us.
I got some safety rules here, and I'm going to pull them up because I'm old and my eyes are bad, so I can't see that tiny writing. And I can either get like really close and be like this.
I know at least one person here that's older than you. And
I don't know.
Oh no, that'd be.
I
me.
don't-
I'm
No,
like,
no, no.
we'll see.
I know Celeste is not older than me. I'm older than Celeste.
Are you? Do we know this
Yeah.
for sure?
I do.
Let's do this. Like, what year did you graduate high school? This is like the the roundabout kind of way doing this.
Right. Well, I'm okay saying it, but I graduated in '89.
Okay, you are older. All right.
Yeah,
what do you got?
but I'm older than you, Larissa.
Oh, all right then. I stand corrected.
Yeah.
I turned 50 this year, so it's my
Awesome.
woo! I'm
Yeah.
50.
That makes
Job.
so. I graduated 83. So
Okay,
All right.
that's when my ex-husband graduated. Was 83.
well, there you go.
We are totally going down some random rabbit hole.
I know.
That is so.
School reminisce.
So here, what I love about rules is the stats tell us what's happening, but I like this because we're going to talk about how can we change those stats
Yes.
in a positive direction.
Try to not be one of those. That's kind of always been my goal. I taught my daughters and her friends, and it's with, and my sons too. It's best to prevent,
Absolutely.
victim, make it hard for them. And chances are they won't want to go after you if you're a difficult victim, for one. And, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So if we can do that, that's kind of the philosophy. So as we've talked about before, meet in public places, and a lot of these are going to be repetitive, but we have new people all the time coming into the scene that are getting divorced, right? And I had a girl that had been raped that said she didn't report it she reported it, but she just told me about it years afterwards. But she said, I was newly divorced and I didn't know the rules. I really didn't know that I shouldn't have done this. And actually the first rape victim from the guy in the mid-singles scene, it was the same thing. It was her first outing. She was all by herself. And there were a lot of, ways that he kind of tricked her. Did it, and she just
you know what I noticed, Larissa, is I think a lot of us, especially if you've been married for over a decade or something like that, it's almost like we marry in one culture, and over a decade or two, that culture can totally go dark, and totally flip on us. And I think we got to remember that and be like, this isn't the world that I dated in 20 years ago.
No. And even from 2009 to when I was back out in 2017, totally different. It's gotten worse. It's gotten uglier.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I noticed that too in like a
darker.
5 year.
Yeah. So anyway, repeating some of this stuff, meet in a public place. And we suggest doing that I suggest doing it for quite a while until you really know the person and feel safe with them. Don't let them know, don't have them pick you up at your home. And most men are used to that and won't fight you on it, but occasionally you get one that's kind of a manipulator and will be like, I always pick girls up at their home. Why are you being so weird?
Or you just meet them somewhere. I think that's a really common thing nowadays. Like, okay, where do you want to meet? Like, you don't need to
common.
Home, you don't have to pick me up. I'll just meet you wherever it is we want to meet up.
And then you have your car.
Yeah, whenever I hear about that reaction from men, like, yeah, what's the big deal? Why can't I just pick you up? Like, just trust me, even though you haven't ever seen me live. To me, that's such red flag kind of behavior in and of itself. So people, and all the more reason to meet in a public place. As soon as you tell them that they want to meet you at your home, meet them in their public place now for the first 10 dates, like, in other words, like normally it would be 3 or 4, but man, let's just,
he just tacked on some more.
That's right.
Or he or she may not get the second date.
Exactly. Unless
maybe they lost, or maybe not the first. I don't know. That can be a time where you're like, I'm done.
Yes.
So don't give your strangers, and remember, potential dates are strangers. Don't give them your personal information, which seems like a no-brainer, but a work location, where you hang out, friends, addresses, stuff like that. And be careful what you're putting on Facebook too, because that will,
well,
I mean, it's easy enough to find somebody without you giving the information.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry, we're talking over each other. Okay, don't give your number out too early, and you can use a burner phone or a Google Voice number instead.
Messenger is an awesome option.
Yeah, there's so many other ways to communicate that you don't have to give your phone number if you don't want to do that.
Okay, hey, can I jump in here just real quick?
Of course.
Sorry, I am.
Wait, who are you?
Yeah, I know, right? Like,
who are you, sir?
What is this weird guy just automatically like assuming he gets?
I thought that was John. I didn't know it was Everett that said that.
Right.
I was like, of course you can. You've been talking the whole time.
Yeah, no, I just want to say, so if you're looking at this, and I'm putting myself on the other end, right? Like if I meet somebody and they give me a burner phone, that's probably going to throw some red flags up on my end. Like,
Yeah.
I'm going to say like, okay, why is she giving me like fake information right off the bat? I'm probably out of there, right? I'm probably thinking she's either not that interested or whatever. So
Yeah.
to me, I mean, I get the need for caution, but at some point I kind of worry like that may be like overdoing it. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think that I use Messenger. That's what I always did. I didn't use it,
I think with
but I always went through Messenger. If someone's calling me, video chatting me, anything like that, even texting, I always try to put it onto Messenger. I take it off of mutual. I'd be like, hey, let's move to Messenger. That's just what I always did. And all of the options are there. So why use my normal phone?
Yeah.
I almost feel like all the big companies have some version of this. So there's like, you know, you can get a Google number, you can do WhatsApp, you can do Messenger.
Mhm.
And I think with the technology we have, I got no problem talking to somebody on Messenger,
Right.
you know, at least in the
think it's
beginning.
Sure.
It's safe for both parties, right?
So I almost feel like, you know, maybe a burner phone is sort of obsolete at this point. You know, maybe that's just, you know, we just.
That might be my old school coming out.
Yeah. That 50-year-old old school
That's my
coming.
Right.
15-older.
Yeah, let's refresh the information here a little, Larissa.
Sorry.
Oh,
No, you're all right.
But I do
The burner
think-
phone works too.
I think a Google Voice number, like, I mean, I don't know. I used it years ago. So yeah, that maybe is old information. I did use a Google number, but it was like forwarded to my phone. So
Right.
really it's the person didn't know that it wasn't my number. It was mostly to protect Google searches with my phone number and finding my address that way. And
For sure.
that.
So I have an app on my phone called Text Now, and
Yes.
it gives me like a whole new phone number, and I use that anytime I have to like if I'm traveling and I have to sign up for something at a hotel because I know they're going to spam the crap out of me. You know, you get my Text Now number.
Yes.
So, but
That's a good idea.
I feel like when it comes to dating, I'm probably not going to like, let's say I'm just meeting somebody online for the first time, like, hey, you're cute. What's your phone number? That seems like a big leap for me. Like I would probably chat with them for a little while. And then like, once we get comfortable, then I feel like that's sort of a progression, right?
Mhm.
Like at that point, I feel okay to say, hey, you know, maybe we could talk sometime. And if at that point they're still like, I'm not really comfortable with that. Okay. But again, it kind of gets to a point where if we're chatting and things are kind of naturally progressing, if we get to a point where they're still like, no, I don't really want to talk, then I start to think, am I talking to a catfish?
Yeah.
Right? Like, am I talking to the right person?
Yeah.
So
Well, can I give a kind of a therapist way of getting around that? Like, I think just be vulnerable with people. And so if I'm the one asking, you know, you to, you know, if I want to kind of look out for my safety, you know, I would just say, hey, listen, you know, I've had some difficult experiences, or I know women who have, and I really am extra careful. And that really isn't a reflection on you. That's really about me just wanting to make sure I keep safe. You know, I think even if we can just say that and talk about how we feel rather than saying that, you know, putting it on them. I think most people who are healthy are going to hear that and go, you know what, that's fine. You know,
Yeah.
like
For a
I
little
think
while,
smart.
right? At some point, it's like, I need to verify you are who you are, because there's a lot of
Yeah.
catfishing going on.
That's true. I think if we're going to get emotionally connected at some point, we got to have a certain level of trust. But
Right. Yep. All right,
sure.
Larissa. On your list.
Okay. Back to rules.
All right.
Tell multiple people about your date ahead of time. Send them a picture of your date and their name. Some of this can be overkill. I mean, we're talking date, meeting a stranger.
I think that it's interesting. I
every
know
first date.
somebody who will take a selfie with their date every time and send it to a friend. And it's part of like the rule. Like, if you're going to go on a date with me, we're taking a selfie and sending it to so-and-so. Like, they know she's totally upfront about it. And it's kind of like, if they had negative plans, they don't need more. So
yeah,
Yes.
so
if they find my body in a river, we know who to look for now.
it's like, I think that's totally fine. And if someone's like innocent, they're like, all right, okay, cool, I understand, you're worried or whatever, and it's not a big issue. So Yeah.
It
Okay,
needs a lot of
weirdest
people on
thing.
it.
Weirdest thing, a little bit off topic though. Like one time I did meet this girl and we were chatting, and instead of getting like a normal picture of me, she wanted me to send her a picture of my feet. Like to her, it was more important to make sure that my feet weren't like Fred Flintstone feet or something. So I don't know, it takes all kinds to make
That's
the world
what
go
she said
round.
it was about.
Right, right,
Some people have feet fetishes. That's just how
right. Maybe it's like a
Uh-oh.
Princess Bride thing, but like I have 6 toes or something like that instead. So I don't know.
She wanted to know.
Anyway,
if you
sorry, I digress.
properly
Totally off
checked
topic.
your
Okay,
feet.
since you brought that up, did you send the picture?
I did, yes. I'm like, as far as I know, my feet are normal. I mean, I've had athlete's foot before. Does that count? I guess. I don't know.
Not if it's
So-
gone now.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
I mean, there is fast acting to acting, right? So
Right.
we'll get that stuff going.
No fungus.
All righty.
Okay.
Next.
Anyway, have a code or safety word. We talked about this before that you can use with your friends.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
You don't
Yeah.
use in conversation normally. It's a common word,
Right.
And we have that, and like I had said earlier, I had one with my daughter, and she had to use it once with me. So you never know.
You never know.
Mhm.
That's true. I could
Have
give
an
a story
excuse.
right now, but I won't.
Pardon?
I said I have a story, but I won't give it right now because it'll be too lengthy. You got to.
Oh, but you'll remember it.
I'm just
Don't forget.
agreeing with you. Yes, it has happened, and people do use that. So
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Have an excuse to leave your date early if needed. Practice using that. Use it to cut out early if you feel uncomfortable or have a bad gut feeling. Also, enlist the help of waiter or bartender if needed.
yeah.
Do
Do you think sometimes we? Sorry, I'm cutting you.
Nope. Go ahead, please.
But I think that it's important as individuals that we're honest with ourselves. And if we're feeling like things are a little hokey and like things are off, because sometimes like me, I'd be like, this is so mean if I was to leave right now. But I think if we like stick to our gut feeling and follow through, we're going to, like, I think that's important. Like, I think the Lord will send us promptings, or maybe there's just a weird vibe and we just need to move on. I think it's okay to do that and feel okay about it.
Yeah,
I like the
sorry,
phrase.
sorry.
I like the phrase, I'm not feeling well.
Ooh,
I don't have to explain whether that's a physical or an emotional feeling
yeah.
or a spiritual feeling. I can just say, you know what? I am really not feeling well. I'm so sorry. We might just have to reschedule for another time. I think I need to go.
Yeah, I like that.
I like it too.
Yeah.
And, I don't think they're going to try to diagnose you or anything like that, kind of, well, what are you feeling? It's just like, I don't know. I just don't feel well.
Can you
Right.
see your food?
You might get a weirdo that's like, is it your stomach? Is it
Now
your-
let's preface this also and say like, this isn't a good excuse just to hop out of a date because you're not like feeling it with that
Right.
person. Like, I don't want to be
Don't
on this
overuse
date.
it.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, let's use it for the creepers that were like, I got to get out of here. Not like, okay, definitely I'm not feeling the vibes with this person.
Like don't
Yes.
use it for when you look down and they are wearing sandals and you go, oh, his toes are really weird.
Right. That guy must have had athlete's
That's
foot.
not
I am
a good-
so out of here.
To say I'm not feeling well.
No, if you have a negative feeling,
The
and
negative feeling that
prompting you to
not
move,
safe.
just go through it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't be
Yeah.
feeling all like, oh, I'd be so mean if I do this. No, you just,
Yeah. Don't worry about being polite.
that's right. Oh, I like that. Yeah. Don't worry about being,
There's one of these, I say something about that. So yeah, let your protective tribe of friends know if your dating plans change. This is, watch your drinks. This is obviously, if you're not drinking, then you don't have this problem. But if you are,
But that could be even like soda and
it could
water.
be your soda, it could be your water. Yeah, for sure. If you
they
leave,
do make that fingernail polish that you can put in if you feel like
Yes.
you might have date rape in the drinks or whatever. So you
your
can do
finger
that.
in there. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, it is something you need. If you did leave your drink and you're not sure, you don't drink it, just stop drinking.
I like that cool James Bond stuff. If you can use technology to keep yourself safe, test for the drug in your drink.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Wear your little glasses with the camera on it, so you'll have
Oh, right.
live stream to Facebook, so you'll have his face on Facebook.
That would be kind of weird though. You're sitting across the date from somebody and it's like totally going normal. And she breaks out this lab kit, starts putting little drops in. You're like, what's going on right now? Like
Oh,
just
it's
making sure you didn't spike my drink. Okay. Like that would be pretty awkward, you know?
No, it was probably that guy at the next table. So
Right.
no
Right.
offense.
Right.
No, I mean, I definitely get the need for that, but I think I don't know. That's a tough one. See, it's hard for me. This is why it's great to have Celeste on, because as a guy, John probably as a therapist has gone through this before. As a guy, I'm just completely on the other end where I'm like, I don't think about these things. Like, I don't think about somebody spiking my drink.
Right.
If they do, they're probably spiking it to get out of there because they
It-
saw my feet, right?
It does happen though. I mean, guys do get date drugged on their
Yeah.
date. It does happen. Yeah.
I'm sure it does, but I would imagine it's probably quite a bit less than like the other way around.
Yeah, probably not common, you know.
Mhm.
Yep.
But,
Yeah.
but I think what you're saying, Larissa, is we need to not make excuses to let our guard down necessarily. You know, I could easily say, well, I'm a guy, so it's not going to happen to me. Or I live in Logan, so nobody here is going to, like, there's no bad people in Logan. You know, I mean, at some point we got to realize, no. Yeah, like it can happen in Logan. It can happen to men. It can happen to anybody.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so even though the tendency may be 95.5%, you know, I don't want to be one of the 5%, you know, like I don't want to be taken advantage of.
Right.
They might do it to steal my money. You know, it might not even be about a sexual assault of any kind, but yeah.
Yep.
That's true. Always trust your gut. Better safe than sorry. Use a safety app such as Noonlight or Life 360 or Know Your Phone's SOS features.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Like what's
Yeah,
that
I don't know
about?
what those are.
So I actually have a Noonlight app, and it is, you set it up, and I'm trying to remember, I think I put in 5 emergency contacts. It looks like this. I don't know if you guys can see. Can you see?
No, it just kind of looks like a
Right
big
there.
circle.
Yeah, the big circle. That's what it is.
Okay.
Okay.
You hold that circle until you're safe, till you're in safe. And if you lift your finger off, it will contact your 5 emergencies.
Oh, that's
Please.
cool.
So like if I'm walking from the train or something, you know, to my car, I could do that.
I like that. What's that called? I'm gonna put it in the chat.
It's called Noonlight.
Noonlight.
Okay, so wait, I'm a little confused. You said you have to lift your finger off when you're safe, but if you lift your finger off, it calls your friends.
Okay.
So there's got to be like kind of a way to turn it off, right?
There
And
is.
say, like,
And I think what happens is if you just lift I haven't used it in an emergency situation, but I did test it when I first signed up for it. But you hold it and then, and also I've been working from home, so I haven't had to use this in
That's okay.
tracks or anything. I think you lift your finger up and then it says, are you safe or not, or whatever. But if you lift your finger off and you don't say that,
That's
So
what
it's
it
like a
calls.
certain amount of
it
time.
gives you like a little.
That makes a lot
yeah,
of sense.
if you don't like
Yeah.
let them know, hey, like, so I think it's like safe or not. I don't know. I don't even dare do it right now.
No, that's fine. But that's really super cool. But everybody can look into that. And that's good for
Yeah.
girls if you're roaming around late at night somewhere. So yeah.
Yeah,
And
if you're
Jamie
having to
said
do
in the
that.
audience, you can't set your iPhone to like the side button.
Yes.
You get to call 911. I know that you
Yeah.
can do the same on Android. I'm not sure how to do it. I just know my kids have done it by accident before. So
Yeah.
usually I catch it like, oh crap, like turn it off really quick and then you get a call back like, nope, sorry. So
The only time I could see that not working would be surprise attack.
Right.
I mean,
Yes.
you know, you're not. And so one thing I would say, like I get my safety stuff partly from what I learned as a therapist, but a lot of it came from growing up in North Vegas. And I will say that when I grew up, you're always aware of the escape route, you know, and you're always aware of your surroundings. I would never walk at night in downtown Northtown and be like, oh, no big deal. I can even feel movement behind me. Like I feel like I have eyes in the back of my head. I'm probably one of the safest dates to walk with in a city at night, just because I'm more paranoid than she is, you know, about what could happen. And like I already have like 3 to 5 plans in my head on how I'm going to defend myself or attack them or run. But you know, something.
Absolutely.
And I think it's good to really think through that. What would I do if, you know?
Yep.
Well, that's why they give you directions on an airplane so that if something happens, you know what to do. I think.
Yeah, because in the heat of the moment, you're not going to think of that stuff.
Yep. I think that's great.
So
Be aware of your surroundings and stay alert.
for sure.
Yeah.
Don't assume anything about someone you don't know. Good looks does not mean a person is safe.
What?
A lot of women fall for this.
Wow. Yeah, that's the
Because
thing. Like,
they do seem harmless. I don't
danger has no look.
If a guy's good looking, they seem less harmless.
Well, to some women.
There's actually some social psychology research talk. The prettier and more handsome people are, the more we trust them.
Yeah.
And so just like we don't marry people based on that, it's not good to trust people based on that, even in dating. So
Yes. Remember
Yeah.
Ted Bundy.
yeah, somebody's brought
Heidi
that.
just said
Ted
that.
Bundy
Ted
he's a
Bundy.
decent looking guy,
He was, yeah.
Yeah.
So
except for that kind of psychopathic look in his eyes. Other than that,
I wonder if he
maybe he softened that.
though. Yeah. And maybe that became, worse as he became worse.
Right.
I don't know. Creepy. Background check and research your potential dates on social media. Watch out for catfishers and scammers by learning their common tactics.
Hey, real fast, Larissa, on
Yeah.
the kind of checking them out, kind of like, looking at their social media pages and stuff like that. What kinds of things I have in my own head what to look for, but what would you say? What kinds of things could we look for that should be red flags where it's kind of, ooh,
Red flags on social media. I guess, you can find out a lot about a person, the way they think and the way they, their political views and stuff like that. You can kind of find out.
You can take a look at their photos and see what they've got on there.
You can see how they spend their time. And
Once I was
Now-
researching a person and I found a photo that was like a month and a half old, and it was him moving into a new house with his girlfriend. So, there's that.
that is good to know. That is
I was
great.
like,
Important
"You
information."
have a girlfriend, and he's like, "What?" I'm like,
Oops.
Wow.
I mean, some of the things that come to my mind are, one, if they're really into a lot of sexual innuendo, if they're posting things that reveal that they are sort of have a chip on their shoulder, or they're not able to control their emotions, if they get really angry with people and have arguments that go on and on social media.
That's why I like the Facebook groups, because you can see actual interaction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think the word I would say is look for emotional stability.
Yeah.
Basically.
There is a guy that posts a lot of temple pictures and church pictures, and that's kind of all it is. And
That could
that's a red flag for me.
throw you off.
Like, yeah. What are you trying to cover up?
What are you hiding if you're being
Mhm.
so in one direction? Yeah.
Yep.
I think get familiar with narcissistic and borderline traits too, and kind of get a feel for what that looks like, how that would show up in their conversations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
For sure.
All right.
Okay. Just know your own personal dating rules and boundaries. We've talked about that before. I did mention carrying a weapon of some sort that you're comfortable with. Obviously, if you're not comfortable with a gun, don't be doing that. But
Pepper spray is always a good thing.
that's why I got my pepper spray here. That's why we're going to give away a pepper spray.
That's right. We're going to do
Pepper
a
spray is
giveaway
probably one of the safe.
during the after party.
I prefer brass knuckles and nunchucks, but that's just me.
You're good with
Right.
it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Hey, if you're in Utah or Texas, it's like you can carry a
You
gun.
can't go wrong with nunchucks, or not nunchuck. You can't go wrong with
brass knuckles.
brass knuckles. Yeah.
It's permitless carry in Utah.
Well, if you can't hit them, I guess it's not going to do you much good. But
Oh, you can always hit them
Can't you?
somewhere.
yeah,
You can be on the brass. You can hit them in the ankle with brass knuckles, and that's
just
good.
remember, for girls, steel-toed shoes are just as good as brass knuckles because guys have a
That's
spot.
true.
Yeah,
That's true.
yeah.
That's right. Remember the spots.
It's
A
our
blood
kill
metal
switch,
object,
basically.
an ankle or a wrist or something, that even that will sort of incapacitate them for a sec.
And women can do self-defense classes. That's always a good option for women. Especially smaller, you can learn how to defend yourself even if they are much bigger than you. So that's always
Yeah.
a wonderful route to take.
Exactly. And that was the next one. Take something.
Oh, oops, sorry.
It's
really
no,
small lettering. I can't read
no,
that.
it's perfect timing. Okay. Oh, this is one I thought, know and understand the latest dating vocabulary. For example, Netflix and chill. So that when you're communicating with somebody, if somebody's because I ran into some guy was saying something about, so what are you doing? I said, I'm just Netflixing, but not chilling.
I'm not chilling.
And he said, isn't that what you do when you're watching Netflix? I'm like, no, Netflix.
Not if
Talked
you're
about that. He had no idea. So if somebody's like, if a guy's, saying, let's Netflix and chill, and you're just like, okay, cool. What are we going to watch?
Yeah.
Okay, but what if they're totally naive and they like, hey, Netflix and chill sounds great. Like, okay. And
Yeah,
they don't
just
get
make
it,
sure.
right?
Make sure they don't get it.
Yep.
They
Just
like,
make
hey,
sure.
just to let you know, Urban Dictionary is my friend. So you
That's
might want to
right.
look that up, make sure
Why
we're
don't
on
you
the same
Google
page.
that real quick and then
You
make
may
sure
wanna
you still
Google
want to get
Right.
it.
Right.
I'll wait. Go ahead.
I know.
Yeah.
Is this really what you want to do?
Yeah. I guess the point of that one is just to make sure that you define what you're snuggling. What do you mean by snuggling? I mean,
Right.
I'm always having to say, what do you mean by that? What's your definition of snuggling?
You have to compare definitions.
Yes.
Mhm.
What are your intentions?
Yeah.
And know your vulnerabilities and protect them. Don't be a victim, facilitator, blah, blah, blah. Oh, I thought this was a good one. Do not lie or try to deceive your date by using misleading photos and stuff. Because number one, it's wrong. But number two, it can trigger anger and aggression in an already ill-intentioned date.
Okay, can I add a little bit to this though? So
Yeah.
to me, if I show up to a date and they look drastically different than the picture, that's instantly like something's not right here, right? Like I feel at that point they've already been misleading to me. And I would imagine for a girl, if you're looking to be safe, that's a huge red flag.
Yeah.
Like if you show up and you're like, okay, this guy, it's one thing if you're like, okay, you're shorter than what I thought you would be looking at your pictures, but you can tell it's still the same person, right? That's one thing. But if you're like, okay, this doesn't even really look like you, and I've looked at several of your pictures and you look nothing like this picture, that's when I'm like on high alert.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Time to go.
Yeah. It's just not good to do anyway. Yeah. You're lying, you're deceiving.
Or if they just don't even have any photos available. I think that's so weird when all of their photos are like of dogs and stuff. And it's like, why do you not have a photo of you in there? Like, why is it all just random memes and animals and cars and whatever? So.
And just so everyone knows, Celeste likes cats and not dogs. So that's why it's a really big issue for her. So
Yeah.
getting that one out right now.
I do like that.
Which one do you really like?
Cats.
Okay.
I love
Yeah.
cats.
Just making sure.
So having
You
a
get a
dog
divorced
like
cat?
vampire.
That's right. I didn't get a
That's the
divorced cat, but my ex got a divorced dog because we didn't have one.
That's awesome. Okay. Keep your phone charged and near you while on a date. This is a good one. Don't leave behind any personal belongings like your purse or your wallet while you go to the bathroom or whatever, but also in their car or at their house or anything that might have personal information. I've known some people who have left wallets at guys' houses and stuff. So
Yes.
That's a lot of
be
information.
careful. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. And then the last few, and like I said, I can make this available for people. Okay. Rideshare safety rules. I hadn't ever thought of this before. I mean, I thought about being safety, but I didn't really think of the rideshare rules. But what I liked is the one that says verify that the car and the driver are who they are supposed to be, and ask them what's my name? Who are you
Oh,
picking?
that's a good idea.
Because I hadn't thought of doing
Well, they usually
Like
show you
that.
a picture of the person in the car, so that usually, and they give you the license plate,
Okay.
usually, right? But
So
yeah,
you can verify that yourself. I
Mhm.
actually haven't used it, so I don't know. But you can use it for public transportation as well, waiting in a safe place. I have many times gotten, I'm on tracks here in Utah and I'm always like, where am I sitting? Who's around me? What's going on? Who's suspicious? And are they going to get off with me? And sometimes I get off at one of the last routes and there's not very many people and it's dark and I'm waiting for a ride and all that kind of stuff. So you kind of have to be aware of all that and plan ahead and be prepared.
You know, one thing that was told to me, and I don't remember the source, I don't know if it was my daughter or not, but I think it was actually my daughter. I think up at college with her, it was a big thing that if they were going on a date with someone, that they'd ask the date where they were going. And then they would, as the date's standing there in the seat or whatever, they would put it into their maps, the actual address, so that they could follow along in their own phone,
Driver.
watch the maps to see if the guy was actually taking them to the actual location he said he was going to take them, so that they weren't like ending up in some random place and they're like, oh, I thought we were going to Chili's and they're in some crazy place because they told their friends they'd go into Chili's. So it's actually kind of a way to say, I'm going to make sure we're ending up where we're going. So that was
Yeah.
kind of interesting.
I like that.
That's a good idea.
That's
Yeah,
really
that's
good.
smart. Sorry, I don't know why this isn't. Okay. Then I've got some self-defense courses, some suggestions. This SAFE one by Robin is an online course, so anybody can do it anywhere. And I think it's pretty reasonable. It's like $100 or something.
Cool.
The Smart Defense is Elizabeth Smart, and it's here in Utah only. I do have a discount code that's date 20, but it does expire this month because I got it from the last time we did our thing.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to extend that for people.
Okay, cool.
I will hopefully get that an extension. And then these others were just suggested to me.
Are those things you can post to our group?
Uh-huh.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
So I know Krav Maga isn't that Israeli Defense Forces training?
Yes.
Like they use that. It's not kind of like a Jewish martial art. And if in case anyone doesn't know, like Defense Forces of the Israelis is one of the most intense fighting forces out there. So
I've heard great things about it. I think it's supposed to be extremely good for both men and women.
absolutely.
Instead of just like Taekwondo.
And it's
So-
very common sense, like the way they do it, you know. And meaning it can come very naturally to you. Like you can remember what to do if they try to choke you, what to
Right,
do
that's good.
if they try to stab you.
That's a benefit. Yeah.
Yeah, because when you're in the middle of it, like who can think straight, right?
You're going to freeze. Yeah. You might freeze. Yeah.
I will say, just as someone who has, you know, been punched in the face many times, we actually did defense training in seminary when I was a kid.
Oh my gosh.
So at least once or twice a year, every year of seminary, when I lived in North Las Vegas, they would have these trainers come in and teach all of us how to fight. And I cannot tell you the peace that brought to my spirit. You know what I'm saying? And that was about the time when I fought back and never had to fight again. You know, usually once the people that want to hurt you, once they know that you know what you're doing, it's a psychological warfare as much as an actual warfare. You know, they will leave you alone. They really will.
Yeah.
So
Part
So
of-
what I'm saying is, do yourselves a favor, learn how to defend yourself. The one thing I would add to that too is get in shape, not to look better for your date, but get in shape so that I can't tell you how much energy it takes out of your body to fight. And so if you can just walk and get healthy, and in some ways that's for your own protection as much as anything. If you're going to fight, got to fight like a tiger. And that's going to take some energy, and adrenaline may not be enough to carry you through. So
It's true.
Yeah. Excellent.
You know, one other thing I might suggest too, COVID sort of changed a lot of the way we do things, and it opened up this whole virtual world. And it might be worthwhile to have sort of at least a virtual connection, not necessarily a date, but at least some sort of virtual chat with the person before you meet them.
Yeah.
That way you can at least
like
get
that.
some sort of a vibe, some sort of a feeling of like, okay, yeah, I would like to meet up with this person, or like, something's not right here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
yeah,
That's a messenger option right there. Just do a video chat beforehand or
Yep.
I thought you were going to say like, don't limit yourself to that. It has to be a live defense training. there's probably a ton of really good defense training on YouTube alone, you know,
Mhm.
Yeah.
where you can go on. In fact, look up that, whatever they call it, that Israeli defense training, and see if you can get some of it for free online, you know?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway.
All right.
I will say one thing though about that. Like, sorry, Larissa.
Nope.
I
Go
feel
for
like
it.
I keep cutting you off. You know, the one thing that I've known from several girls who've gone through this, this was like a big thing with my sister growing up. Like she went and got her black belt. She's like, I'm going to be totally prepared. And guys, it's not like Hollywood where you've got like some girl that's like 100 pounds beating up The Rock, right? Like, let's still be real about what the expectation should be coming out of this. Like, don't feel like you're going to go in there and just whoop some guy's butt if he's like 6'4" and like totally muscle bound, and you're like, you know, 120 pounds. Like, well, I've been through training. It's all good. Like, no, still be
Yeah, don't be overly
cautious, still be
confident.
smart. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I will say live training is always going to be better than YouTube, but that doesn't mean we can't, you know, supplement live training with what we learn online.
Right.
Yeah.
That live, I mean, video training is going to be better than nothing. So,
Right.
all right, Larissa.
Okay. I
We'll stop
mentioned
interrupting you.
I wanted to mention the Haven Retreat for survivors of child sexual abuse with the Unique Foundation. It's here in Utah. I'm not sure if they've got stuff in other states, but I think for even women who have been raped back when they were teenagers, I think that this is a good resource. They have what I've heard is some free therapy, and they've got a retreat, and it's supposed to be an excellent program. So for anybody out there that hasn't really, you know, that doesn't know where to go or where to turn and is looking for something, that might be something to look into. So I wanted to mention that. And I think that's it.
Is the Unique Foundation also available for men who suffered sexual abuse growing up?
Well,
Just out of curiosity.
that's a good question. I would have to look that up.
Okay.
For child sexual abuse, so it might be. I'll have to look into that. But
I know Maloof company, the bedding company, also has a foundation for sex trafficking victims.
Oh, okay.
And so, and it's a really great organization. And I know they had a conference. They started a conference this last year, and Elizabeth Smart came and spoke at that. That was up here in Logan. So you might want to look them up, Maloof.
I haven't heard of that. I'll look into it.
Here, put that in the chat, John.
Okay, so I'm on my phone. And hold on.
Oh, tell me what it is. I'll put it in there.
Maloof Foundation, MALOUF Foundation.
All right.
And so if they just want to look that up, they have a website and, you know, that kind of thing. So
Awesome.
Cool.
So one thing that I was thinking about when we were talking about, when I was talking about you get that fingernail polish that can have that'll change color with the date rape drug. Another thing that's an option, and it is for women. I'm not sure if men would need these, but they're actually special types of underwear that can't be cut off, and they're for running. And so you can wear running clothing, and they literally are made, I don't know what they're made out of, but they can't be, the way you put them on, they can't be taken off unless you have like a key or something. I can't remember all the details, but they can't be cut off, can't be pulled off. And a lot of times they say that with someone who's trying to rape somebody, if something goes wrong, if they can't just get it going the way they want to, if there's something,
they might freak out and
they will leave.
Yeah, they might run.
Yeah.
They might quit.
So those are really, really, I guess, a big thing for runners right now. That's something they can put on and feel secure as they're like running around parks or whatever. So I just don't remember the name of them. But.
That is interesting. I have not heard of those.
That reminded me of something I saw. This is in Africa. Rape is like rampant in Africa.
Oh my gosh, poor women.
And anyway, I saw this one day and I couldn't believe my eyes. It was pretty amazing when you think about it, but they actually have a device that women can insert.
Yep.
Okay.
On it.
And vaginally. And when an erect penis goes in, it is skewered on a metal barb that has a barb at the end, so it has to be surgically removed from his penis.
Oh my gosh.
And so he is immediately going to go to the emergency room and have to have that surgically removed, and he will know no peace until that surgery is over. And so, I mean, and I remember somebody asking, this was a post on Facebook, what do you think of this? And I said, listen, if you are trying to rape someone, I got no problem with you getting damaged from that. You know, like, if somebody's got to get hurt in that, to me, it should be the perpetrator.
Yeah, there's several types of those type of inserts. I've never heard about the barbed one, but I know there's one that's kind of like the Chinese finger pull thing where they go, and then it's like barbs going the opposite direction. So if you try to pull it out, it you know.
You can't, yeah.
Yeah, so.
Man, how far have we fallen when you get to that moment?
You know what? I know that men have struggles with women falsely accusing. I get that. And I know that there's struggles with, you know, women drugging them, take their money and all this stuff. But usually a lot of this safety is around women, like being a woman and recognizing that I am
and that makes sense to me.
Vulnerable to a male. I mean, I could never physically stand up to a guy. Like that would not be something I could do. And so, yeah, like these things, it's sad that we have to come up with these contraptions, but it's a necessity, sadly.
Right.
It is.
And I'm not recommending that. I mean, that's taking it, I mean, to quite a level. I would say for a place like Africa, that makes total sense to me for sure. But hey, you know, who's to say, you know, do what you need to do to protect yourself. That's what I say.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's all about becoming the least likely victim.
Right.
That's kind of what I'm always
limiting the options.
Yeah.
Yes.
And everybody's got to make their own
Making it hard.
decisions. Yeah. How far am I willing to go to protect myself? And don't be ashamed of it. Just go for it.
Yep.
Okay. So first of all, I apologize for being so late. I am coming straight from a business trip and just got back. And so I was running as fast as I can. So my apologies for being late tonight, but I missed the first part. And I know we've talked about this before, but it's been a while. So refresh me, how did you kind of get into like really preparing for this? I mean, is this something that personally you've had experience with, or you're like, okay, I've got to help other women with this? Or is this just kind of something that you're like, I feel strongly that this is what I need to like kind of prepare and help other women this way?
Yeah. Yep.
We did talk about that.
Probably talked about it. Okay. All right.
Yeah. Basically, the interesting thing is a lot of times people that have gone through something will then become the helper.
Right.
I have actually been very fortunate to avoid any sort of sexual assault. I mean, there's been, you know, little things, but I have not been attacked. And like I said earlier, I have always been the one, even in high school, where I was super hyper vigilant, and I was, you know, so I'm always trying. I'm aware of my surroundings. I might be as paranoid as John might. Maybe I'm worse. I don't know.
No shame. I'm not quite as paranoid.
So I'm careful.
But Logan's been a healing experience.
But the thing about that is that I think I can also see it from both sides when helping victims, because I don't have maybe that bias that some might have if they were a victim.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, so I was actually in November of 2019, I was on a jury for a child rape case. And, you know, of course, in the jury questioning, one of the things, well, they're trying to get they want to know where you sit with that, and that sorry, I was reading something, got sidetracked. Anyway, if you've been assaulted before, that kind of thing, because you have those biases. And that was one reason why I ended up, I think, getting chosen for that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm getting sidetracked. Anyway, back to that. It kind of fell into my lap. I had mentioned I've had some experiences where I feel like God has had his hand in it, and we had we did have a rapist in the mid-singles scene in Utah 10 years ago,
I
and
think I remember talking about
we
that.
did talk about
Yes,
that. Yeah.
yes,
So that's kind of where that kind of just thing. And prior to that, I did tell them that prior to that, I had studied criminal justice. And so I kind of already have a little
Okay.
bit of that desire, a little bit of that background. And I am a researcher and a good detective. And so it's just kind of those kind of things that just come by naturally, but I'm not doing any of it as a profession. So I'm not making any money at it at this point. So it's kind of it's not really a hobby, but it's definitely
a labor of love.
That's
It
right.
is.
You are getting lots of blessings from the Lord. I have no doubt.
I'm where I'm supposed to be. There are things that I know. In fact, even with this group, because it is such a hard group to run and manage, and we are looking for another admin, but it's really hard to find the right person, because you want somebody that's going to, I don't know how to even word it. You just want the right person, so that
You want someone kind of with the same passion you have.
and the same kind of thinking, and trying to, wanting somebody to be reasonable, and
Yep.
seeing through any, somebody that's willing to get the facts and get to the bottom of things, and not just kind of throw stuff out.
Well, I was going to say, how do you stop, like, because a lot of women come on, and it goes both ways, but a lot of women come on the singles groups and stuff and just like totally bash whoever,
Mhm.
exes, ex-boyfriends. How do you limit that within your group to where someone just comes in, maybe they're mad, like they like Jason and Jason turned them down, so they're going to come into your group and be like, oh, Jason did X, Y, and Z, just to kind of give them like a negative, like,
Yeah.
or what I'm saying. How do you
Yeah.
manage to get through that type of stuff?
It's super hard.
Yeah, I bet.
It's I like the easier ones that are, that have records or something. There's some, maybe that's in the news, or it's easy to prove, like that's obviously a lot easier. Some people, you get to kind of know some of the people in the group, and there are some girls that I just have to be careful with. I watch a lot of interaction, and just really learning their behaviors. And there are some that I just won't post their stuff. We just because everything has to go through an admin. So I think it's free for all there. And so I don't know. And we have had other women that will come out and say, okay, well, here's how I see things, and here's maybe what's going on, and try to get to the bottom of that. It actually gets to be very time consuming.
Yeah.
For something that, I'm not getting paid for. So,
I imagine you see women at all different places along the healing
I
spectrum.
do. Yes.
And that would be hard to juggle, because, obviously it's going to be a lot more traumatic and toxic in the beginning, and as they struggle through that, and that shows up both as sort of dismissing it and it's no big deal, or it's too big of a deal to handle, that kind of thing. Whereas it seems like later on, you probably got women who are like putting it in perspective, feeling their worth again, that kind of stuff. Do you see them almost
Yes.
like helping each other through the process?
Yeah, for sure. We have all the different levels, like we probably do in any group, and lots of different opinions and viewpoints, and trying to manage that can be difficult too. But yeah, we have to remind them that this is a support group, and we don't want to victim blame, and we don't want to make people feel bad. And, it's a tough one. I don't know, but I still feel that it's necessary, and I feel that it's where I'm supposed to be. And so I handle it very carefully, and when I don't have time, or the other girl doesn't have time, there's really only two of us. It gets put on hold. There's just, I'm like, pause. We're not doing anything right now because we're just too busy. So, but yeah, I just haven't found somebody that I can, and that's willing to assist. But yeah. you have to be careful with it. And that's why it's important that I get a good person to help.
I think it's really wise that you are being selective in who you choose, because all too often, and I'm sure John has seen this before, anytime you've got a breakup and a divorce or something like that, it's very easy to just become bitter, and then accusations get thrown around. And some people are going to take sides, right? Like, well, I'm friends with this girl and I know her, or they feel like they know her. And so, of course, if she says something bad about this guy, she must be telling me the truth. And then you start getting this he said, she said thing. And all it takes is an accusation. I think it was Billy Graham, I wouldn't quote me on that, but one of those popular televangelist guys that said, I would much rather be accused of murder and found innocent than be accused of rape and found innocent. Because one of them leaves sort of a doubt behind, like, okay, maybe he was acquitted, but there's something to this, right? Where the other one is like, okay, he didn't do it. So if once those accusations get thrown around, that's a very scary and serious thing. Some of them are deserved, right? Like sometimes people really do some horrible things, but sometimes people just have really horrible experiences with an ex where they're bitter and stuff gets overplayed. And that can be really very dangerous and toxic.
Right.
So how do we, as with two men on the panel here, how, or what advice would you give to like mothers that are raising sons or young kids or whatever that are dating? Like, I feel like they're vulnerable nowadays because like all it takes is a woman to say, oh, he did this or did that. And who knows where.
Well, let me clarify something. I think there's two mistakes we can make. And one is we don't report something that actually happened. And the other one is we falsely accuse someone for something that didn't happen. I think of the two mistakes, 95% of the time, the mistakes that being made is we're not reporting stuff that actually happened. Right. So I just want to be kind of clear about that. But what a horrible mistake to falsely accuse and have it not be real. You know, there are heavy and really in a way that hurts victims as much as the falsely accused. You know, it might be one false accusation out of 200, but man, it poisons the whole well on those other 199 that were legitimately looking for help.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, and so I think we got to be really careful in both directions. And I know as a therapist, you know, my inclination is to always believe.
Yep.
But at the same time, you know it's not in her best interest to falsely accuse. I know that another life is going to be involved in that. Of course, as a therapist, I have a duty to report, you know, and so certainly if I have evidence, although with rape, you know, I'm not going to have the evidence. And so I'm going to err on the side of reporting, and hopefully they will sort it out in a very fair way, you know, and just look at what actually happened. And but men and boys need to be careful, you know. And I've actually found myself, I have actually dated, this is a few years back when I dated. And there were a couple of times when women were happy to meet with me in a private place or have me pick them up at their home. And I actually refused to do that. And I knew, for example, that both of them had been recently divorced. So they were kind of the ones who had married in one world and divorced in another. And what I told them was, listen, I could come pick you up at your place and I'm safe. You're going to be just fine. But a total perpetrator could tell you that too. And so I'm going to meet you at a restaurant. Let's just meet at a restaurant in the middle of Salt Lake City where, you know, people all around. And I want you to get used to doing that, even though I don't think you need to do it with me. Let's just do it with me too, you know. And I think as men, we got to be protective of women to some degree. And what we need to realize is in doing that, we are protecting ourselves, you know. If I'm meeting her in a restaurant filled with 100 people, and everybody can see us coming and going, the likelihood of me getting a false accusation is just zero. You know, there's too many witnesses, you know, that I walked in, and when we went our separate ways, she went to her car, I went to mine. Yeah, that's it. So
what did it say, Larissa? 80% of assaults and things happen within a residence? Is that what it was?
yeah, in a home.
In the
Yeah.
home. Yeah. Yeah. That's one thing. I need to have more conversations with my boys, but they're not always here. So I don't, but it makes, I try to continue to have them. And, you know, like I said, we talk a lot about consent, and I think in teaching them to protect themselves, like what John said, you know, where he kind of evaluated and he was by basically having your own rule and not picking them up at home, that protects you. And I think in watching the women that you are associating with and dating and making sure that they don't have unhealthy behaviors. You know, if you
Right.
with somebody who's drinking too much all the time, or who doesn't have any personal responsibility and stuff like that, you're putting yourself at extra risk, because, you know, it's somebody that might be willing to do something like that, to falsely accuse if they need something.
That's the thing. I didn't know them either. And
Yeah.
and I actually have been trained too. I'm in a profession where I have to keep really appropriate boundaries, you know, with people anyway. Because therapists are certainly not immune to false accusations and stuff like that. And so I've never had a problem with it, but part of the reason is there's always somebody on the other side of the door. There's always, you know, and you just kind of get used to that. But I think all of us need to get used to that.
Yeah.
Both protecting ourselves from being victims of abuse and from being falsely accused, you know, and then everybody's safe if both sides are doing that.
Yeah.
We had a guy that was on the board of regents at WSU. And for those who don't know, the board of regents is kind of almost like your board of directors in a company or something. But board of regents at WSU went in one day for a massage, totally harmless, came out, somebody saw him and reported it as this kind of shady, going to these massage parlors. And it was totally not a big deal. I think he was going in there for some sort of therapy for a car wreck, if I remember right. I wouldn't quote me on that part though. But essentially it ruined this guy's reputation. He had to resign. It was like this big fiasco over nothing. And so it doesn't take much to just have that spark, and somebody somewhere just says, well, here you go. And they throw that nugget out there and can completely destroy somebody's life.
Well, especially in a cancel culture environment, you know, and a Me Too environment and, you know, stuff like that. I mean, there's a lot of good that can come from that, but there can be a real dark side to anything good, you know. There's a shadow version.
Well, I think the thing is, I'm not opposed to the Me Too movement, but the thing is that there's so many women that have experienced some sort of sexual assault of whatever level, that it's like, you know, once that ball starts rolling, like everyone's going to jump on board, because I think a majority of women have experienced something to an extent.
Right.
And it's even if it's not necessarily full on rape, it
Yeah,
can
just
still be
inappropriate flirting from like a supervisor, you know, just
any of it. Like it doesn't give,
Groping
and it can go both ways. I mean, women shouldn't be flirting with men at work, and there's boundaries that shouldn't be crossed. But it's interesting that as us women are trying to fight back and be like, hey, this isn't appropriate, sometimes we're also being tried to be quiet about it. And so I don't support trying to keep people quiet, and if they feel like they're a part of something that has gone on and they want to feel like they're a part of it, I think that's a good thing. So I don't know, to be vocal.
And just to be clear, I'm not anti-Me Too movement. I just, you know, we can take any good movement and ruin it, just like the reporting issue.
I agree.
You know, for sure. 1 out of 500 reports is false, and that's not a good thing. So
I agree. All right. So
all right.
If there are any audience, I already put in the chat, but we are just about the time where we're going to open up the audience participation for questions and comments. So if you want to raise your hand, if you have a question or comment, we can bring you on one at a time.
Hey, Celeste, before you get to a question, I just wanted to, not to delve too deep into it, but I thought it's worth bringing up when couples, well, I'm saying couples, but they're not necessarily a couple. When people tend to get intimate. Maybe even they're just making out, but it goes too far or something. I think if both men and women can realize that, and I'm talking about some unhealthy people here, right? If the healthy people know this, but that it's okay for a woman to give consent in that she's making out with you and whatnot, and it's okay for her to stop at any point in that
mind
act. Yeah, and that at any point she does, the guy needs to understand he's got to stop, and there's a protection for him as well, and there's no excuse. You're not going to die because you didn't get to finish anything.
right.
Be fine. So I think just remembering that
nothing's gonna blow up.
happens.
Yeah, body parts aren't gonna blow up, or
No, you'll survive. Yeah, you'll be fine.
it'll be okay.
I think it's important that there's a discussion beforehand, like, okay, where are we gonna take this? Where is this going to stop?
Yes.
Just so that both people are like, okay, this is kind of our boundary. This is what we're both willing. And even if they say, okay, we're going to stop at this point, but one of them decides to stop earlier, it's like, if someone says no, the answer is no. Like, you just back out of it. Just don't push anything, because it can not go well. So
just, one more advantage of the love chassis. So just, and not to judge anybody or anything like that. The commandments are for our safety. I really believe that, and at least spiritual safety, if not flat out physical and practical safety, in a lot of ways. So
yeah, absolutely.
agree.
So do we have any questions out there?
Not yet, we don't, but
Okay.
maybe, we've
got a
been,
very quiet
we've
audience
covered a
on
lot of
this
stuff
subject.
here.
They are just blown away
They're over there taking.
by the quality of information they have received tonight.
It's true. And the thing is the dating, I think we touched this in the beginning, but I wasn't able to chime in, but dating is just so different nowadays than like when I was dating originally before I was married. Like there's just so much more danger involved. I feel like there's just so much more ways to kind of give false information and pretend you're someone you're not, and things. But at the same time, I think with the advancement, there's been a lot of things that have been created to help keep us safe, such as Larissa's app where you just put your, release your thumb. I think that's awesome. Never heard of that. But I don't know. I've been kind of shocked coming into this dating world at my age when my last date was when I was like 21, so it's been crazy. And it's a real danger for a lot of people. And so this is an important topic.
Yeah.
Anyway, I wanted to chime in that it's a whole new world out there for me.
So I have a question for you, Larissa. In your group, how much do you see people coming back saying, hey, I went on a date with this person and it totally went off the rails. They were like all over me. I couldn't get them to stop. Do you see that quite a bit? Or is this more of like a kind of, when I was younger, this happened? I mean, how actively, I don't know if active is a good word. How often are you seeing this kind of going on right now?
We see it a lot. There's a lot of, because we had talked about reporting, not reporting. There's a lot of repeat offenders in our, it's like in our little small group that the same person is doing the same thing to multiple women and never getting caught, not stopping.
Yeah.
At some point,
are they not getting caught because they're not getting reported?
They're not getting reported, or it's
said, she said,
it's too sticky. It's not a good case. It's not, there's a lot of, like I said, it's hard to prove rape. Even, being on that jury for the child rape case, I learned that they had told us to take notes, and I'm actually a really good note taker. That's just how I learn, writing things down. And I was writing down excerpts from their statements and page numbers, they'd say on page this and line this, and I was writing it down and summarizing it. And in my head, I was thinking they're going to give us copies of this and then we could quickly go to it when we're deliberating. And they didn't. It was all based on our memory and the notes that we had. And so when we were deliberating, it took us a while to deliberate because it was a tough case. And we almost had a hung jury. It was really hard to take care of that. What was my point with all that? I'm sorry.
It's simply
Well, just
because there's a
that-
lot of. Go ahead. Sorry, John. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. It's just that it's hard. It's hard to separate reality from fiction, in some ways. And I think that's why we got to make reality as clear as possible during those times rather than after, so anyway, that's just what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like I want to go show people my brass knuckles, like maybe, but I know, taking the law into our own hands is, although I kind of grew up in a place where that was done, taking the crime into our own hands was done too, but so was, getting back at people and, making them pay for that. And I would say in some ways there was a benefit to standing up for yourself, but in other ways it's diminishing returns. It can really backfire.
Yeah. The thing is, I think with women, and I'm sure I'm just going to speak for women, like to talk about and to come forward with something that you've experienced. First of all, it's very difficult to even talk about, right? And knowing that you're sharing something that was horrific and people are looking at you like, is she telling the truth or is she not telling the truth? Like they're automatically going to question you. So it's just so hard emotionally to just come forward. Plus it's like you don't almost like you don't want to think about it, you don't want to like relive it, you don't want to do any of that. But let's say someone does want to come forward and they're like what would be the best way to come forward with information? Let's see, someone had this in the chat here. In the best way to warn about repeat offenders, say like in your group, let's say there's a repeat offender they've had an experience, and what's the best way to come forward with that, Larissa?
Well, are you talking if they, well,
It says, what would you recommend for the best way to warn about repeat offenders, so to speak, who have a pattern of having accusations against them from reputable sources, but no convictions?
well, then, the initial post about the person from somebody's experience, actually, a lot of times I'll have multiple women complaining about the same person. So a lot of the details will come from multiple, I don't like to call them victims, but multiple posters.
Yeah.
And then if something comes up again, then we will either tack it onto the old post and bring it up again. Hey, a lot of times some of these men will get married and then come back and then get married again and then and very short marriages or engaged and then come back. So it's like, hey, saw him on Mutual again, saw this guy on Match and he's been talked about before. So we'll kind of, just kind of bring it up again. Here's the behaviors to watch out for. Repeat offenders, that's what we do. We just, if it comes up again, somebody else is posting about their story, then we.
Do you recommend them going to like the police or?
Yeah, and we have a lot of women that can get dicey too, because we have a lot of women who are like, was this reported? Is he going to jail? Da, 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 and they get all hyper about it. And
yeah,
ladies, we've got, you don't know the whole story and we don't give all the information. And I remind them of that too.
Well, and even if it's all true, it's something you can't really pressure someone into.
Exactly.
That's got to flow from
It's gotta
inside.
come from them.
yeah, because it's a scary thing. I mean,
It is.
You're vulnerable. You have to relive it. You have to prove something that you really can't prove a lot of the times. So
Exactly. Yeah. It's so hard to just, it's simple to say, go report it, but it's harder to say. And even if it has been reported, a lot of them like are just,
sorry, I just cut you off. I'm sorry.
oh no, I'm done.
I was just going to say there is a situation that I'm aware of that, and I don't mean this at all, like as a man bashing type of thing, but there's a situation I'm aware of where someone was sexually assaulted to an extent and took it to a male leader, and his question was, well, what were you doing in the back seat with a guy? Like blaming her.
Sure.
And because I think sometimes that is an old school view. Well, you put yourself in that situation, so what did you expect? Or you put yourself in that situation, so it's kind of your fault. When in all actuality, and that's what I tell my kids, I'm like, I don't care if you're like nude, traipsing through a mall or wherever, I don't care, alone on a beach.
Yeah, you don't deserve to be hurt.
It does not give a man the right to do anything to you. So anyway, the individual that had the male leader say this to her was just beside herself. And the male leader was told, hey, you know, I don't want to give too many details, but it was brought up to him, and he quickly, through some of the wording that was delivered to him, he was like, oh yeah, I guess that's probably not the way I should phrase it. And you know, like, I think that men and our society in general needs to realize, like, we can't blame the victim, because that's horrible. You've already gone through a traumatic experience, and then to be blamed, well, you shouldn't have been in the back seat. I mean,
right.
Yeah.
I mean, that can come from more than one place. I think one place it can come from is a shaming culture kind of thing, but I think that comes almost more from our ancestors than our church, you know. And but the other one,
no, yeah,
no. But I think too, it can come from a place of protectiveness, meaning, hey, why are you putting yourself in dangerous situations? You know, I want you to be safe, but it's just not something to emphasize at that point at all. You know what I mean? Like, even having this discussion with someone who's recently been raped could be viewed as, you're blaming me, like, because I put myself in a bad situation, you know. And it's like, no, this is designed to help prevent it in the future. This is designed to help you be safe. Exactly. You know, that nothing, like you said, nothing you do or don't do justifies being victimized.
Right.
Like that will never be okay.
These tips and tricks just help us to maybe not find ourselves in a place where we're more easily victimized than.
Yeah. And remember, this isn't to protect you from all men.
Right.
This is to protect you from the 3 to 5% of men who are predators and cannot control their violent sexual behavior. Right. That is a distinct minority of the whole. It's just that that's all the number of men it takes to wreak havoc throughout an entire population.
I agree.
And including to cast aspersions on the rest of us, you know. And so I've actually found research that shows, and this is really interesting to me, but there's some research to show that when the people who help us heal from having been hurt are like the people who hurt us, the healing is greater. And I'll say that again.
Yeah.
So for example, if I'm a woman that was harmed by a man, I may have a hard time having a male therapist, for example.
Right.
What the research shows is the outcomes of victimized women with male therapists is better.
Oh, wow.
Okay. And part of the reason is not only is the therapist helping me heal from the wound, they're reconfiguring my view of people like that. In this case, men. And it's almost like that helps us heal even more, because then we start to realize this wasn't about me. This wasn't about men. I don't have to walk around afraid of every man that I see. And can you see how that would kind of be helpful? It's just that some victims just can't go there. And that's okay too. If they just need to have a female therapist, that's great. The differences aren't like massive, but they're pretty close, but it's actually slightly better, you know. And I thought about that because I've been hurt by people. I could easily identify, you know, people of different races, or although I've been hit by everybody from every race, but or it could be women if I've been hurt in past relationships, and that's why I think it's very powerful. If I were to work with a therapist, maybe I need to work with a female therapist who can, who's mature and, doesn't have those same tendencies, and that could really be helpful to me.
Well,
So,
it sounds like it's like you could build trust with a person that maybe you felt
right.
even if it's not the same individual. Yeah, it's an intriguing thought.
Yeah, helping me let go of those stereotypes can actually be part of add to the healing, I guess you could say.
Yeah, it's great. Oh, we have a hand. Heidi, come on up. You're first.
I was surprised Heidi didn't have her hand up first. I kept
Well, she
waiting.
does.
Like,
She
what
got
is
it
going
now.
on?
I'm not sure what that means, Everett.
Well, you were active in the chat. I thought you would have a lot to say, and then suddenly you just went radio silent.
Oh, I was switching from my phone to my laptop
Ah, okay.
to pry it out of the clutching fingers of my 16-year-old son.
Gotcha.
No, not really. I'm just teasing him. So more like a comment and a question. Question for you, Larissa. It's focused more on domestic violence, so I don't know if you've ever looked at it, but if you have, what's your opinion on the NCADV website, National Coalition Against Domestic Violence? Yeah, I had to make sure I got the letters in the right order.
Yeah, I don't know if I've actually looked at that website.
I haven't looked at it recently, but if you look at it, I thought I'd put it out there as a resource in case you ever wanted to use it. I found some good
That's great.
statistics, some good
Yeah,
educating statistics on there.
yeah, this can get, domestic violence is also, that's also a part of it. I think it all kind of is.
Yes, it's maybe not so focused on the dating scene, but
Right.
And I just wanted to say that this has been a great podcast. Your PowerPoint was so awesome, and
Thank you.
loved it. It was great information.
We're excited to have you.
Heidi.
Thanks, Heidi.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you.
Heidi.
That's technically my first PowerPoint, so
Ooh,
What?
It was very
Wow.
well done.
very
no,
successfully done.
I've never shared one on Zoom, but I thought, you know what, this should go on a PowerPoint.
Right?
It was good.
Yeah, and just
All right,
like
we'll
if
pop
you
back
can,
off here.
to like post them to our site as well.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Yep,
Heidi.
I can share.
Appreciate that.
Thanks.
Thanks,
You
Heidi.
know, the hope is if even one person benefits from this, if there's one date that's safer, if there's one
Oh,
tip that somebody learns that keeps them protected from this, then it's all worth it, right? So
exactly.
I think what you had, I mean, I know I came in partway through, so I apologize again for that, but what I saw was fantastic. And I think what you've got is a very good thing going. I really commend you for being able to put that together and share it here for all people to kind of come and benefit. And John's had great experience in this, counseling with people, I'm sure, over the years.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
hopefully,
So many faces have come into my mind of especially women and girls I've worked with and had those experiences where they just were able to find a whole new place, kind of a level of healing they didn't think they could have. And yeah, in some ways those experiences are heartbreaking, but in some ways those are like the best victories, anything trauma related, when someone can overcome that, wow, that is like a therapist's dream come true, kind of thing. So,
And it's not easy.
Right.
I bet it takes a really long time to.
and I've actually, what's interesting, I've actually learned some really good ways to guide women around to reporting,
Oh, really?
but without being pushy, almost. And what does it for the ones where it's worked the best? It's thinking of other victims and other potential victims. If it's just about them, they're reluctant to share. But I've had a few where I don't want this to happen again. Like, I don't want anybody to go through what I've been through with this guy. And not to get too detailed, but even, in the last few years, there've been even a situation that was a pretty high profile where a guy got arrested for inappropriate behavior that was against the law. It's just, he broke major laws with minors. And to see the relief on on someone's face when they realize this guy is
Can't
going to
do
be
it again.
in prison for the next 6 to 8 years. And then he will have that on him after that, to where he'll have to think twice before he starts grooming someone else and trying to do that kind of stuff. So, but you're right. It would be so much better. I wish I'd been her therapist a year before she actually was victimized, or taken advantage of. But in a way she taught me. So with other teenage girls that I've worked with, and boys, we end up having this discussion in a way that we wouldn't had I not learned from her and her experience, so I love the prevention work. I think that's huge. So much better if we can stop it from happening in the first place.
Absolutely.
So,
All right.
And I would also,
go ahead.
sorry, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Nope. you're good.
One last thing, I would also encourage anybody, if you may hear this now or even in the future, if you're watching on YouTube or something else, if you have ever had an experience with this and you've been reluctant to come forward, or you just don't know how to do that, don't ever hesitate to reach out to Larissa, John, Celeste, myself. At the very least, we can find a way to point you in the right direction. I'm sure John has all kinds of resources. Clearly, Larissa does as well.
yeah, as long as we're aware, like those resources Larissa shared are huge, and so, yeah, pay attention to those. And if you don't have them readily available, reach out to one of us and we'll have them available to share the information.
Absolutely. Okay.
Okay,
Sorry,
my-
Celeste, I
this-
totally cut you
This
off
is
there.
just my final plug, and I think I've shared this book or suggested everyone reading this book on a few of these podcasts because I think it's an amazing book. But since we're talking about females and well, some part, and how they're treated, there's a book called Half the Sky, and I believe they made a documentary out of it as well on Netflix. It's a tough read, but I think every person should read it. I think every female, every male, I think every person on this earth should read that book because it opens your eyes to what truly goes on in this world to innocent women and girls around the world. And because like here in US, we have a lot of rights as, okay, we're equal and we can stand, and we have a lot of laws backing us where that's not the case in other countries. So anyway, it's called Half the Sky. Read it. I haven't seen the documentary, but I'm sure it's fabulous as well. So just wanted to plug that.
Awesome.
Love it.
All right.
What's scary about the world, like especially in areas where women are really taken advantage of, is usually what that means is most of the good men have been murdered. Their line of defense is taken out, and it leaves basically. Can you imagine living in a nation of perpetrators? It's that is a frightening thought. So,
And people live with that frequently, sadly.
yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Larissa, for coming and being on again. It was fabulous to have you.
Thank you for having me again.
Always love having you on here, and who knows, we'll probably pop you back on and again in a little ways.